You know how it is when the words can't capture what it feels like to do the thing that you've yearned for, to do a simple thing that once felt impossible, and what a blessing it is to be here together online and in person, to light this flame that has never gone out, this flame of hope, this flame of deep purpose that we share across time and across distance and across great hurt and onward into our greatest hopes. And let us all be honest with each other as well, that right about now, what once felt like forward motion, a careening toward a path when things would become normal again, feels often these days like a herky-jerky back and forth motion that brings us together and apart again. In times like these, we wonder what it takes to begin a brand new thing, when the shape of that brand new thing is frankly not altogether yet clear. But here we are, all of us. Here we are with joy and with uncertainty bound up in our hearts. How do we begin a whole new thing in the midst of sorrow and uncertainty? We just do, together, always, imperfectly, together. Kirsten?
Yeah?
Did you just hear that? That was clapping, which physical hands do.
Oh my gosh.
And I want you to know, there are people here. Like actual human people. There are people here, and since you're our brand new intern minister, right? You probably think that interacting with real live human people is like perfectly normal, and that in fact, the ability to interact with real live human people in a non-awkward, not super weird way may be a pre-qualification for the whole job of being minister, right?
Nancy, I've hardly left my house in 18 months. My kids don't recognize me when I'm not in sweatpants, so you're expecting me to not be awkward in front of real life people, humans who are also wearing masks and trying to oh so cautiously distance? I don't know what I'm doing here.
Thank God. She's one of us. And if indeed you were feeling half as awkward or confused or maybe even a little anxious as I am, I want you to know that we are all figuring it out as we go along. Not a single one of us knows much more than how to define the next right thing to the best of our ability in any given moment. And here we are, every single one of us, allowing ourselves to figure it out as we go. So, how about we all promise to go ahead and be awkward together?
Deal. All right, yes, round of applause for that. Welcome to this place where we are all figuring it out as we go. Welcome to this place where we are too honest to pretend that we have all the answers. Welcome if you are new or feeling new or confused or a little bit scared or even exhilarated by the possibilities of reconnecting and re-engaging with this precious community. We hope that you will reach out via email to our Connections team at connections@rruuc.org so that we may welcome or re-welcome you. Again, that is connections@rruuc.org. We are so grateful to be with you, both in this space and in your homes.
Welcome just as we are, just as exactly as we are, in physical and in virtual space. Our hymn is one that you might know. All you folks at home, you can sing along with Linda, Bailey, and Arlene, who are live in a remote location right here in this building as they bless us with song. And for those of you in the room, while it isn't yet safe for us to raise our collective voices together in song from your seat, you may join me in gestures or just let the music wash over you. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Oh, we give thanks
For this precious day,
for this precious day,
for all gathered here,
for all gathered here,
and those far away,
and those far away,
for this time we share,
for this time we share,
with love and care,
with love and care.
Oh, we give
Oh, we
thanks
give thanks
for this precious day,
for this precious day.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give
for this
thanks
precious day,
for this precious day.
gathered here, and those far away,
And those far away,
for this time we share,
for this time we share,
with love and care,
with love and care.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give
for this precious day,
for this precious day.
How do we start a whole new thing? How do we begin it? With a single dot on a page? With a motion, with a gesture, with a thought, with the beginning of a brand new beginning, birthed like a new life into the world. A beginning that perhaps becomes a habit, which could in time become a practice, which can evolve into a way of life, a form of meaning making, a path to new purpose. How do we begin a whole new thing? Perhaps with one little dot and the intention to let our actions be more powerful than every single thing that makes us afraid.
The Dot. By Peter H. Reynolds. Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. "Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm," she said. "Very funny," said Vashti. "I just can't draw." Her teacher smiled. "Just make a mark and see where it takes you." Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There! Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, "Now sign it." Vashti thought for a moment. "Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name." The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold. I can make a better dot than that." She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work. Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow. She discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting, lots of little dots in many colors. If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on a bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot. At the school art show a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots were quite a splash. Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. "You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw," he said. "I bet you can," said Vashti. "Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler." Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. "Show me." The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line. Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, "Sign it." The end.
Just sign it and frame it and call it good. Whatever beginning of a new beginning you can muster as you jab it or scribble it into the blank page before you right now. We are at the beginnings of so many new beginnings right in this moment. Having put the very first tentative dots on a canvas that we will create together. There are a few things in our shared congregational life that we are creating together. I just want to keep us all informed about as we move into the time and space for us to share our joys and our concerns, the very meat of what it is to be in community. Firstly, you all know, we all know, that what we are together, we create together. And we need you, especially in this time of transition, to volunteer in ways large and small to keep the wacky magic of this place alive. We need folks to support on the tech team. Dave and Marsha Leonard can do wonders, but my goodness, they need a posse to help. We need folks to greet and to welcome, to support social distancing as we come back into the physical space. We continue to need all sorts of support for our online programming, so if you can volunteer, not just to receive what this place is, but to create it, let us know right now, office@ruuc.org, or you know how to track me down. You're also welcome this afternoon. right after our service at 11:30 to bring backpacks, work bags, whatever it is that you carry, the evidence of your vocation in, bring it here for a backpack and work bag blessing for your new beginnings. We'll also have a labyrinth laid out right here in the sanctuary, starting at 1 o'clock, so that if you would like to rededicate this sacred space in a quieter way, in a way perhaps a little less people-y, you can come to center down in a place that has served your spirit before. Everything we do together is an expression of who it is we are called to be together. Our community does this sacred work always of grieving and rejoicing. We're grateful for many things today. We're grateful that Pete and Ruth Salinger are celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary on Wednesday, because love like that is possible. We are grateful that Sue Schneider came through swimmingly hip surgery with the magic that is modern medicine, able to do every single thing it is that she wants to do and to move through her life with greater mobility. On the other side, yes, even of pain. And today, we hold up so much that is almost too heavy to bear. For all those in the path of Hurricane Ida, who remember what it was to await the mighty storm. This weekend, when we commemorate the winds and the waters and the loss and the courage that came with Hurricane Katrina, we know so many wait. We light a candle now for all those mourning in the midst of the latest terror at the Kabul airport, for those who arrived from Afghanistan through our region's airports this week, and for our very own people, for our very own courage and our very own loss. As some of you know, Hayatullah Sunny Wafa, a beloved member and friend of our congregation, he served as an essential interpreter to the U.S. Army in Afghanistan. He and his wife, Rania, and their beautiful family, their children, including one not born until they arrived here in the United States, they were sponsored and supported by you, by us in this congregation, by our team at River Road in 2017 to get a special immigrant visa and to build a life of safety and of hope right here at home. Sonny's mother and younger brother back in Afghanistan have been in hiding from a vengeful Taliban ever since 2017. And some years ago, our own amazing Susan Jackson, working with our immigration and refugee team right here at River Road, they worked to achieve humanitarian visas for Sonny's family. Now, with the fall of the Afghan government, Susan and her team have indeed worked to secure Sonny's mother and brother's safe evacuation from Kabul. Susan Jackson, if you are listening, you are the one that we have been waiting for, as are we all. Both Sonny's mother and brother arrived in Qatar a few days ago, to everyone's great relief, and they are en route to another secure site right now. Exactly when and if they arrive here in the area, we do not know, though we think that is quite possible, and with pro bono legal assistance, Susan is managing to reactivate efforts to process their immigration to the U.S. on a more permanent basis. It is, however, our great sorrow to share the sad news that Sonny's father and his cousin did not make it out. They joined his sister, who died at the hands of the Taliban several years ago, in beloved memory. These who struggle to survive, these who do not make it through, are not other people. They are us. It is not in other places, but in this place where we grieve, we recommit, and we remember. Our Immigration and Refugee Task Force right now is working to define our next steps in support not only for the Wafa family, but for all those fleeing the death that forces them so far from home. And we hope in time in this congregation we will rise once again to the moral duty that has always been our deepest work. And so holding all of this holding the cataclysm of feelings that crash up against one another in our own hearts, I invite you, as you are willing and able, to take a deep breath in a good seat for words of prayer and of meditation. Spirit of life and source of love, there are indeed things too powerful to name. There are losses so unimaginable that the scope of them outstretches the human mind, and there is courage, and there is grace, and there is hard work so magical that we could not dare to imagine it in the first place, that we could not dare to ask it of one another, that we could not dare to dream it possible, and yet here in this moment, the horror and the wonder that is the human condition crash up against each other, and we gather awkwardly, preciously, hopefully, not to demand that any one of us or even us collectively fix it all, but to simply make space for the grace that already moves within us, among us, and between us. Spirit of life and source of love, help us on this day, in the midst of it all, to believe first and foremost in one another, and in the possibility that once begun, the acts of creativity that move in our own hands can blossom into works of art that change the world. May we move forward, one gesture, one hope, one dot, one meaning-making moment at a time, until from this forest of loss, we might look up and see the light of hope filtering down upon us through the trees that have always been growing quietly there, waiting for us to take our rest and peace among them. May it be so, and amen. More sacred than spirit of life. Again, while we cannot sing, let that music wash over you.
Spirit of life, come unto me, and sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blowing the wind, rising the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of love, come to me, come to me.
Our offering is one of the ways that we do this thing called beloved community for real. Not in concept, but for real. And this month's designated gift organization is for the Haiti Relief Fund of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The UUSC was founded 80 years ago during the Second World War. Now, they work within the United States and around the world, and today they have mobilized to respond quickly and effectively to the crisis facing Haiti in the wake of the monumental loss of life after the most recent devastation in that beautiful and sacred place.
Thank you, friends, for this opportunity to share a word about UUSC's disaster justice work and our response to the recent earthquake in Haiti. I'm Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, and I'm president of UUSC. For 8 decades, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee has sought to respond when crisis strikes, always with an eye towards supporting communities that are overlooked and not engaged with by large humanitarian organizations. This work has led us to the larger disaster justice movement, building resilience and capacity, advocating for justice and human rights in relief and recovery, understanding that intersectional systems of oppression cause disproportionate harm to communities of color and other communities impacted by these systems. We are grateful for the trust you have placed in us again and again to reach out on your behalf in times of crisis so that relief and recovery happen within a human rights framework and with a long view of sustainability and restoration. I know that many of you are aware of and were touched by UUSC's work in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake. Many of you supported the development of the eco-villages with your financial gifts. Thank you. As soon as we received word of the latest catastrophic earthquake, on the heels of assassination and political turmoil, and in the midst of a terrible COVID outbreak, we reached out to allies and former partners to understand the impacts and how we might respond. We are determining our first steps now, driven by our commitment to support grassroots-led recovery. Already, we have seen an incredible response to our appeal for financial support. Thank you if you have already made a gift. If not, we hope you will consider joining with us in this effort by making a donation to our Emergency Response Fund, either as a part of a congregational collection or through our website, www.uusc.org. Thank you so much for your support.
There are so many ways to give at River Road, and much as we care so deeply for this immediate community, part of our call as a congregation is also to care for our interconnected global community, particularly in times of crisis. And so we ask that today you join us in digging deeply to support our brothers and sisters and family members in Haiti as they face yet another crisis. You can write a check with UUSC Haiti Relief Fund in the memo line. Again, that is UUSC Haiti Relief Fund. You can give directly off of our website, and right now you can pull out your phones and text to give at 73256. Add the amount and you'll see the UUSC in the drop-down menu. Again, the text to give number is 73256. The giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure is part of how we demonstrate our values, and we are grateful for all your gifts in all their many forms. And now, as our offering music conveys, we come to this sacred space to connect with a community and a spiritual practice that helps us move forward in alignment with our values, walking, rolling, dancing, dreaming in body and in spirit as each are able. We find a way together to keep pressing on.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't you give up.
Don't you give up.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving on.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
And I'm scared too.
And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right next to you.
Right next to you.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
You gotta put
one foot in front of the other
and lead with love. You gotta put one foot
in front
one foot on the other and lead with love. Put one foot
in front
one foot on the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love. With love.
So, in the Passover meal, which by the way happens beautifully each spring, right there in the fellowship hall as we celebrate with our partner congregation, Beth Chai. In the Passover meal every single spring, in a moment when the whole world is waking up, each family and each beloved community, they come together and they eat bitter herbs and hard-boiled eggs, all the traveling foods that stand as reminders of a long exodus that kept them from their homeland for so very long. They come together at that time when so many new things are beginning to remember the exile. They come together to remember the time apart from what they held dear, forced by mighty circumstances to be strangers in a strange land for so long. And they remember what it was to make a journey back over dangerous terrain and long, hungry days. They tell the story to each other of exile and of return. And when they tell that story every single year, when we tell that story, it is not a fairy tale. It is not even a narrative where everybody gets to be a hero. It is a living memory of what it takes to survive. And the whole Seder experience of that bright, bursting springtime season, the Seder experience of the Hebrew Passover, it is dripping with rituals, both ancient and modern. Right there are words that have been spoken for thousands of years. And right there, perhaps, is your grandmother's Seder plate, which she may have carried and held in her own two hands all the way from Europe through Ellis Island, wrapped in her own scarves. The specifics might vary by tradition, by family, by location and time. But there is one thing in the Seder meal that remains almost universally the same. There is one ritual, one single practice that persists in this memory of exile and return, because every year at nearly every single table there is one single chair left empty. There is one cup of blessing left undrunk. There is a single plate served up for one who is not yet there to eat it. And throughout that ancient and elaborate Seder meal, this one chair, not unlike the chairs that sit empty right here in this space, there is this one chair that sits with silent eloquence. From age after age, it has been the practice of the people to leave that one chair open. Not only for the people not present, but specifically in that tradition for the prophet Elijah himself, who represents in this ancient story hope and power and every single almost impossible thing that arises when the exiles are no longer running away, but have found their way back home. And at the appointed time, not particularly because someone in power has decided they're ready, but because it is the time the ritual demands, an elder or a teacher in the gathered community throws open the doors of the place that they have gathered and declares for all to hear, "The door is open." Remind us then to be open to the hope of a better world, to hold on to the dream that way we may live in a world without hunger, without slavery, without any injustice. We invite Elijah to our Seder, the elders declare when they throw open the doors, just as we have thrown open our doors today. Just as we have left empty seats for each other's safety, just as we have declared, "Come, let us worship," on this very moment, the doors are thrown open, and the congregation around the Seder table, they raise their voices to welcome the prophet and to let hope in, whether they happen in that moment to be feeling particularly hopeful or not. And when they let the spirit of the prophet through those open doors to take up residence in the empty spaces between them, Elijah brings with him not just hope for those gathered in that space, but hope for all the people all around the world who are not yet free. Hope for all the people all around the world who are still in exile. All the people still held in the bondage of an injustice they cannot escape. And so by practicing that ritual, right? By inviting hope to come right through the open doors at the appointed time. The wisdom of the prophet, it doesn't just fill the empty spaces and the empty chairs. It fills the places in the people's hearts so that they can then move out from that sacred place into the world more resilient because of a kind of magic that they created for each other. That's the transforming, powerful grace of a ritual. It takes what we yearn for and what we wish we could feel or be or do, and it gives it shape and it gives it intention. That's the kind of practice. We gather, we say the words, we do the things that gives a structure and a rhythm to life. It is the business of carving order out of chaos. And perhaps there's never been a greater tool for human resilience than this: to invent for ourselves a kind of magic that orders time, and in so doing, to let hope in even when it is difficult to remember anything beyond the borders of our exile. But the thing is, right, it takes thousands and thousands of years to create a ritual like that. When we speak of the Seder, we speak of generations, we speak of lifetimes, we speak of a tradition more ancient than any of us alone. And you can't just wake up one morning and invent an ancient ritual that orders time and then invites hope into your door even when you are not ready for it. This is not a do-it-yourself kind of endeavor. Except maybe, in some ways, it kind of is. Because building rituals that give order to the chaos Isn't that kind of what we're doing? Isn't that what we're doing right now? In person, online, no matter where we are, what we're doing whenever we decide to be in community isn't a ritual, just a learned strategy for meaning making that we choose for ourselves because it orders life for us even when we do not feel quite up to the task on our own. Building a ritual is what we do every single year when the kids, you put on your backpacks and they're kind of heavy and you don't want your mom to take your picture on the front stoop, but she does it anyway. Building a ritual is what we do in those moments when we order the rhythm of time. Building a ritual is what we do when we take Grandpa's recipes down off the shelf and leaf through them again to remember and to celebrate and, yes, to grieve. It is what we do anytime we keep an appointment with, frankly, anyone, including ourselves. In fact, ritual is the entire undergirding impulse of calendars and schedules and days to start with. As the great author Annie Dillard wrote in a piece that I go back to again and again when my life feels a little out of control, she said, "A schedule is a net for catching days. It is a scaffolding on which a worker can stand and labor with both hands on one section of time. A schedule is a mock-up of reason and order, willed, faked, and so brought into being. It is a peace and a haven set into the wreck of time. It is a lifeboat on which you find yourself, decades later, still living." There is a schedule to the Seder meal. We open the doors for hope, not when we know for sure that we are good and ready for all that hoping, but when the appointed time has come, not because we have chosen exactly to begin at the beginning of a whole new way, but because the ritual we've created has a rhythm that carries us along with it whether we are ready or not. The great Afro-futurist and prophet of our times, Octavia Butler, she has this way of inventing whole new worlds in her imagination, as great writers do. But when she was asked how she keeps going at the task, she takes ritual and she rechristens it as something altogether more accessible with a momentum all its own. In her words, what does it take to continue creating a whole new way? She says, first of all, forget inspiration. Habit is more dependable. Habit will sustain you whether you are inspired or not. Habit will help you finish and polish your stories. Inspiration won't. Habit is persistence in practice. And so while you're busy telling your story of long exile, when you are, like me, perceiving the world and all its threats, the threats that lie ahead and beneath and all around us, when the great winds blow and the hurricane beckons and the uncertainty lies all around every turn of every road, no matter which one you choose to venture down, what will sustain you? First of all, Butler reminds us, don't be too grand about it. And do not imagine that the spirit of life and the source of love and the force of all inspiration is going to arrive right on time all by itself to carry you off into realms of hope and power and prophecy. Do not wait around for the prophet to bust down the door and come find you. Instead, do the thing that you have trained yourself to do over time and with intention. Open the door to hope, not because you have decided this is the moment, nor even that because you are up for it, but because the habit says now is the time to open the doors, ready or not, and invite hope whether or not you are feeling particularly hopeful right about now. Do the thing that you have trained yourself to do over long practice, Because hope does not just come to those who have a whole lot to feel happy about today. It comes to all of us who choose to let it in anyway. The practice of persistence has its own momentum, and it can carry us along. Not only if we are inspired or brilliant or pure or true, but simply if we are brave enough to open up the door. How do we start a habit that becomes a ritual that sustains us over time? How do we start anything at all? A new school year, a drawing you never thought you could draw, a set of choices that you do not feel quite up for making even when you were in the middle of making them. How do we give shape to the chaos all around us? We begin it. Simple and small. We begin it. We open the door. We beckon. Here, we say, to the hope that sustains us and has sustained the generations before, I've left a chair for you. Sit and eat. Welcome home. What can we say but thank you? Thank you to Schwai, Linda, Bailey, Arlene, Cliff, everybody who made the music that sings in our hearts happen today. Thank you to our tech crew, Danny, Jeff, Marshall Leonard, Dave Leonard, whose birthday is Tuesday. Thank you. You cannot know how hard they work and how much love goes into it. Thank you to our greeters, to Jesse at home working the Zoom room, to our COVID-19 team. John Kerner is representing them here today to support our social distancing. They help to keep us safe and help us guide our way forward. To every single one of you logging on at home and those of you who pre-registered and made your way here today, thank you for being this strange and beautiful community for each other. And now, may the truth that makes us free, the love that casts out fear, and the hope that never dies guide us and those we love and those we do not love forward together till the day spring breaks and the shadows flee away. Amen.